I'm really excited to have Sister Masuma Jafar with me to have our wonderful one-to-one discussion. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Love and romance. How important is it to keep the sparks alive?
I'm so glad you mentioned love and romance, because when you were talking
rolled
to the
over
panelists, yes, it wasn't sort of so out there. Okay, my view is that love only comes. True love is only there after marriage, after the nikah or the muta is recited. Because, and I'll give you my proof.
Okay,
Don't look at me like that.
I'm thinking.
Okay, my proof is that in Surah Rum, Surah number 30, verse 21, Allah says that He gifts within the marriage love and mercy. If we've already got love, what's He gifting it to us? It's obviously something we don't have. That's why He's gifting it to us. And can you imagine the gift of love that comes from Allah? Imagine how strong that would be. Imagine how beautiful if you could hold on to that love and actually work with that love, with that tool that God gave you, how successful our marriages would be. And I know you're going to ask.
No, I haven't thought about it like that. It's the way that you put it. I think a lot of the time, and maybe I can only speak as a girl and as a woman, that you're often looking for that spark, often looking for that connection, that click, I don't know, something. I'm not talking about being infatuated with them, but some kind of, well, can I see myself with them in 5 years and do I want to wake up next to this person?
The thing is, people change so much. So, I mean, when you're looking at someone now, you can't imagine what they're going to be like sort of 30, 40 years on. You know, you can't imagine what sort of parent they're going to make. You can't imagine what sort of, I mean...
but we do sometimes. Sometimes we plan, you know, the names of our children before.
No, for sure. But what I'm saying is, like, I think, you know, I think you'd never know a person till you've, you know, lived with them for quite a few years. I know, like, when I got engaged, there was no such thing as engagement as such.
But I understand,
when we had the nikah recited, because we were going to have a long sort of engagement period.
Yes.
So we had the nikah recited, and we had, I think, about just under 2-year engagement period. And I got to know my husband quite well. And then when we actually had the actual walima, the sort of official wedding at the mosque and everything, and I moved in, you know, I was quite surprised at some of the things that, you know, he did and things, because I was thinking, oh, I didn't really know him. Oh, I wouldn't have expected him to react this way or do this. I mean, they're not negative things at all.
Naturally, you find things.
And I found that, you know, I got to know him a little bit better. And we were living with our in-laws initially. And then, you know, when I got pregnant, we decided to move out because there wasn't enough space in the house and so forth. And when we lived on our own, again, there was another side to him that I saw. And I just thought, you know, and it's like people say, you know, how can you live with someone when you don't get to know them? But you don't really get to know them until you've lived with them for a few years, and they just relax, and all those, you know, barriers come down and they become themselves. And again, now, if you know, I think he's a totally different person to who he was when I married him. In the same way, I'm a totally different person. I've grown. You know, my views have changed so much and things. So I think it's a learning experience. It's a growth. There's just so much in it, and I don't think you'd actually ever know the person that you're going to marry fully anyway. And I think that's why the trust in Allah has to be there when you're looking for a partner.
Have we been sold a Hollywood dream, like this idea of... because I'm thinking about when you look at your grandparents, for example, well, I don't know, they, like you said, they grew to love each other. I was going to say tolerate, but they grew to love each other, etc. But it wasn't none of any of this, you know, let's romance each other, let's go for a walk, which I think is, you know, it's not a bad thing.
No, not at all. I think it is needed. I think, you know, and Islam encourages that. Islam encourages for the you know, both the husband and the wife to ensure that they take care of themselves and look presentable, look, you know, something that you know, when you look at your husband, you want to feel that wow factor. When he looks at you, you want him to feel, oh, I'm so lucky to have her as my wife. You know, imagine as a woman, you've covered yourself up because you don't want other men to see. Obviously, then you want to look the most beautiful for your husband. This is who you've saved yourself for.
Or you could be really tired and from work, and you don't really want to be dressed up in your...
I don't have to go to work. What
yes,
is more rewarding for me? What is more rewarding for me is to actually, you know, dress up for my husband.
But how often do males do that for females?
Again, I mean, my husband does it for me, and I'd ask him to if he did. This is where we go wrong. our husbands ask us to dress up.
Yes.
When we look a mess, they'll turn around and say, okay, look, can you
Yeah,
just do
yeah.
yourself up a little bit?
Yeah.
Why do we not do the same to our husbands? Why do we feel that they just should know it or they should just do it? No, ask them. If you feel that your husband's not dressing up for you, then tell him, look, you know, I'd like you to wear this. Actually buy him something that you like him to wear and say to him, look, you know, this would look really good on you.
Can I ask something really weird? Just come into my head. Well,
I wouldn't expect anything less.
You know, our scholars and etc., why don't they ever hold their wives' hands and stuff? I've seen one person do it and it was like the most shocking thing ever. But I thought it kind of made them look human for everybody else. And is there something wrong with that?
I don't think there is.
I don't know. Wouldn't it be nice to see? Are
be.
we not allowed to hold hands in public?
I think public affection, there's nothing wrong with it as long as it's not obviously.
I'm just saying hands.
Yeah.
Or maybe
I
arm.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all. I think it's, again, I think it's a culture issue, and I think it's, you know, it's sort of from the cultures that they come from. It's not something that is the norm. It's a very sort of, you know, Western thing to do, is to walk down the street holding hands and things. It's you wouldn't see it so much.
Well, you do
within,
see it in the Middle East. You see a lot of, you know,
again,
abaya
with the
wearing.
With the young, I mean, I grew up and I never saw my parents ever showing any affection to each other. I'm sure they did.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, I never saw it as a child, and it wasn't the done thing. Whereas now, I think parents tend to sort of, you know, show affection, and I think it's a good thing, because I think most parents try not to have rows in front of their children, but I think you every so often you do, because you'd have some sort of conflict, and you know it comes across, even if you haven't shouted at each other or, you know, had that discussion in front of the children, they can feel the tension, and if they've also seen the love, then they're not worried.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Do you think the onus is most often on the female to be the one who, as we said, spruces up, or, you know, does things to reignite, I don't know, romance, etc.?
I think romance is more important for the female. And if it's something that's important for you, then why would you not do it?
And is this taught to males? Because I feel there needs to be, like,
I think
men are from Mars, and women are from Venus.
That's actually a very good book to read. It's actually very, very good. It sort of, you know, makes you realise that your husband's not doing it just to wind you up. That's exactly. You know, that's how men are, and that's how women are. But I think it's also the concept of different love languages. You know, we all have different love languages, and there are certain things. So, for example, it's like I'll say to my husband, I don't want you to go out there and buy me, you know, I don't know, a diamond necklace or something like that, because, you know, it's not about the money. It's about how much thought you put into the gift. I'd rather have, you know, something that he's, you know, done with his own hands, and he's, you know, like I don't know, just, I don't know, I can't think of anything.
Something that's taken some thought.
Exactly,
and
some thought and some effort from him, not just sort of, you know, putting cash out there and just getting it. So again, different people are different. Whereas I know women who would love to have diamond necklaces and things. So, you know, and again, I think we need to tell our spouses what we want. I think as women we hold back. A lot of the times as women we expect our husbands to read our minds. They can't. You know, they really can't. It's like if I tell my husband, if I'm feeling upset with him and he asks me, are you okay? And I say yes, he's not going to pick up on the tone. He's just going to say, oh, well, she said yes, okay, so she's fine.
Do you think I was just thinking, there was an article by a Muslim sister, and she was really advising women on what they should do in order to keep their husbands, so their attention doesn't go anywhere, etc. Do you think we should be saying the same to men? Like, don't assume that just because you've been with us for 5 years that we're, you know, it's fine, you put on weight, we're going to be fine, but if we put on weight, you'll be the first to. I feel like, must we always be like, you know, the television set on and like trying to get their attention?
I think generally when we have children, we get, because of the emotional bond that a mother has for her child, we get so caught up in the rearing of the children that the husband gets forgotten to a certain extent. And I think that's why that onus is on us to actually remember that he has needs as well. And, you know, we can't sort of put him on the side while we bring up the children. And I think that's the main thing. Whereas, you know, for the husband, I think, again, it's like if he has put on a little bit of weight, then tell him. You know, if that's, you know, if you don't like it, then tell him. But I think generally they themselves, they don't have things that sort of pull, the career or whatever. But again, it's something, unless you're really career focused, it's usually something you go, you work, you come back home, and then you want to be with your wife because that's who you've chosen to be with. So they're not as focused on the children generally as much as women are. And I think that's why we sort of say, you need to take care of yourself, you need to spend some time with your husband.
Are there any examples that you can give me of, people that we look up to in Islam and Islamic history that promoted romance and promoted, the romance, basically?
I think you have, again, what happens behind closed doors, we don't know. But I think, the fact that, you have, where the Holy Prophet spent time with his wives, and he would actually make time out to make sure that he has spent time with his wives, shows that he did take into consideration their needs and the fact that they needed that time with him. So even though he was so busy doing everything else, he would make sure that he gave them that time that they needed as well.
And doing things that they wanted to do, because sometimes it can be.
I'm sure they.
Because I don't know how true this hadith is, but there's an example that he took certain of his wives to watch a sword production. I don't know where that came from,
read that, so I
but
don't know.
because it was one of his wives. Apparently, she won't like that type of stuff. But I don't know. I said I don't know where it came from, but I have heard that several times. So.
We have hadiths that the best of men are the ones who are the most merciful towards their wives, the ones that take care of their wives, with mercy. And again, merciful means to sort of, treat them with that love and, with sort of fulfilling their needs as well.
That's so important. I really love the way you ended our episode. I hope you've got a lot from this episode, and I do hope that anything we have told you has touched your heart. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.